go back to our top story. The latest crime stats were released yesterday. It shows that rapes decreased in the last 3 months by about 9%. But the numbers are still staggeringly high. 11,315 women were raped in just 3 months. That is more than 125 rapes per day and 5 every hour. And remember, these are just the reported cases. So let's discuss this crime stats now with Phinah Kodisang, who's the CEO of the Soul City Institute for Social Justice. Phinah, thank you so much for your time this morning. These statistics, as we see them and as was articulated by the police ministry, do you buy into them? Do you accept them as they were? Is it a true representation and reflection of what is happening on the ground?
Thank you for having me. Numbers can never be a true reflection of what is happening on the ground, because there are those who don't report, there are those who are still dealing with their trauma who have not come forward. And I think when we see numbers, we always see that the problem, as much as we can see that there's progress, we are seeing numbers reducing, but we know that the problem is bigger than what is presented. So for me, these numbers show us that we still have a problem. And when people were talking about reduction yesterday, as you were saying, if you look at, the breakdown, 125 cases of rape per day, 5 every hour, that's just too much and unacceptable.
I mean, we're speaking about it being unacceptable in itself, and one wonders, has the public lost faith in the police? We're saying that this is not the number of cases that are reported, and some cases go unreported. Does that mean South Africans don't trust law enforcement at this stage?
It's work in progress. I think we come from a place where we were not trusting the law because of how people were being treated when they went to police stations to report. There was a lot of secondary victimization, but we've seen that changes are slowly. We are seeing changes slowly. We see that the police now are being trained. There's commitment from government to make sure that the police understand their roles. We have now these 3 bills that have been promulgated into law. So we are seeing progress. But I still want to iterate that this does not mean we are yet there, and we should not, relax. We should all really put our effort. It's our responsibility, all of us, to make sure that we deal with these numbers. And maybe we need to say to everyone that the fact that it's domestic violence that we are dealing with means we need to do work in the home more than we are doing it in the police station.
Yeah, I mean, when we're speaking about us being able, as a citizenship, being able to take accountability and responsibility for such, maybe the question is, how do we do so, Phinah? How do we then exercise our responsibilities as citizens of this country to ensure that we have a safer nation? I mean, to think that by the time the show ends, there will be about 10 rapes that would have taken place in this country, just based on the stats alone. That means by the time it's 9 o'clock, 10 people would have been raped in this country, whether it's men or women. And never mind that, when it looks at the number of women that were murdered within the last 3 months, that's 900 women murdered within 3 months. What do we do at this stage? Do we hold more workshops? Do we have more conferences? What can we as a citizenship do?
I think we continue having these conversations. The fact that these numbers that we are seeing are the numbers that have been reported tells us that awareness creation has really worked. We can't celebrate, these numbers, but at least we are seeing numbers coming forward, people reporting. So the awareness that has been created is working. What we now need to do is to prevent these cases from happening. We don't want to continue counting how many people, so we need to work together to make sure that we are now preventing new cases from happening. And because we know that more work needs to be done in the homes, we need to start having family programs. I think we need to invest in having family programs. Yesterday we were talking about mental health, and we were saying it's also the responsibility of the family to make sure that, our responsibility in how we raise children, in how we have conversations, but also our obligation to report. I think that's what we need to really talk about as a country. What is our responsibility? Do we know that we have an obligation to report? Because if someone is screaming in next door, why is it that we are not responding? We can't be saying we are waiting for a police who will come, 6 hours later or 40 minutes later when the person has already died. How are we as a community making sure that we are protecting one another?
Yeah, and once the individual or the people report, what's also been raised as a concern consistently is the re-victimization that happens within the police facilities. So there may not necessarily be enough training that has been given to the members of the police service in being able to deal with these cases of gender-based violence or deal with these cases of rape, to a point where now a gender-based violence desk is said to will be stationed across police stations in the country. Would that be more effective, or do police need to go back to the drawing board and learn how to train to handle matters of GBV as well as femicide?
The training is something we must invest in. So we have the NSP for GBV. We need to really cost the whole NSP, fully cost it and fully finance it, and then effectively implement. And within that, it talks about behavior change. It talks about how we must implement the law. It talks about the training of the police. It talks about everybody's role and what must be done to ensure that we enable everyone to take responsibility and to be accountable and to do what they are supposed to do. Response is a responsibility of the police. Prevention is the responsibility of all of us. And we need to make sure that we don't just wait for the response, but we prevent. So we need to really invest in programs of prevention. We need to invest even in the curriculum that we give in the schools. We need to make sure that we are addressing prevention of gender-based violence and femicide, because each number that we count is unacceptable, as we said before. We don't want women to be talked of as statistics, even children.
You're speaking about women not being spoken about as statistics as well as children. Could a citizen's arrest and the enforcement of a citizen's arrest, which is, by the way, the duty of South African citizens, is our right, we can actually have and conduct a citizen's arrest, could that possibly be a solution where community members, if somebody knows that somebody is a rapist or did rape somebody or did rape a child, did rape a woman, can they just go over to that person and arrest them and actually conduct a citizen's arrest, take them to the police station and have law enforcement deal with them from there?
For as long as there's no violence involved, because we don't want to promote violence in response to violence. So the role of the police is to do that, is to arrest the people, take them through, the processes of the law. If citizens are to take the law into their hands, it could get out of control. And I think that's what we need to manage against. We don't want, to end up killing people in the name of trying to address another violation, because we are also guided by the framework of the Constitution of this country and the human rights of this country. So we need to really navigate that space carefully. But my recommendation would be, let the police do their job. We should not try to do their job because they are failing at it. We must hold them accountable and make sure that they do their job so that we don't end up in trouble as citizens, because should anything happen during that citizen arrest and it gets out of control, the police will definitely arrest you who are trying to address a situation.
Yeah, Phinah, we'll leave it there. I know that it's an ongoing conversations around how is it that we can mitigate against the crime against women and children in South Africa. Phinah Kodisang, they're giving us the latest on that. Well,